Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Christine Petrone, and I am a director in the Accounting and Advisory Services Department here at Dannible McKee. I am a certified public bookkeeper and a certified QuickBooks Pro advisor. I've been with Dannible McKee for just over 8 years, but I've been working with in accounting and with QuickBooks Online for about 11 years. I specialize in not-for-profits and municipalities, but I also work with clients in all different industries. Just a little bit about Dannible McKee. We are a full-service CPA firm with an audit department, a tax department, and the accounting and advisory services department. We are headquartered in Syracuse, New York, and have offices in Schenectady, Binghamton, Auburn, and Tampa, Florida. However, we do have clients across the United States, from New York all the way to California. I also wanted to mention a little bit about what the Accounting and Advisory Services Department does. So we're basically an outsourced bookkeeping and CFO service. So what we offer really just depends on what the client is looking for. Some of our clients have an in-house bookkeeper that completes their day-to-day activities, such as entering bills, paying bills, and recording deposits. All the way to some clients, we are their accounting department. We attend finance committee meetings, board meetings. We assist with doing the budget annually. So pretty much whatever the client is really looking for, we just discuss that and come up with a plan. I just wanted to remind everybody that we will be recording this and we have all of your contact information. So we will be sending out a link afterwards. And we also have a YouTube channel that this webinar and any of our previous and future webinars would be on as well if you're interested in any of those. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be talking about some of the basic functions of QuickBooks Online. What you see on the shared screen is a sample company called Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. This is the landing page. I do hear from a lot of clients that they get a little overwhelmed with this page because it's confusing to look at sometimes. It has a lot of numbers on it and graphs. Don't get stressed out about this. You don't have to look at it if you don't want to. You can also put it on privacy mode if you have other people looking in the QuickBooks or you just don't want to have to see it when you log in. The first thing that I really wanted to talk about was the navigation of QuickBooks Online. Some of you might be familiar with desktop. Desktop also has a landing page where it shows each little section of QuickBooks with arrows of kind of the layout. So you'd enter an invoice, receive the payment, record the deposit in order. And a lot of people utilize that landing page to perform their daily tasks. One super cool thing about QuickBooks Online that I love is this new button up at the top left. I like to tell my clients that the new button is your best friend. It pretty much has everything that you would need to go do on a daily basis. And it has separation out for different categories. So you have your customers section where you could create an invoice, receive a payment, send them a statement. You can create credit memos and sales receipts right through here. And then you have your vendor section where you can do an expense, write a check, create a bill, and pay a bill, and also do your vendor credits. And you can also enter a credit card credit or an expense. Not a lot of people use the team section. If you use QuickBooks Payroll, you would use this section more often. We do usually advise our clients to use an outsourced payroll company, so we don't typically deal with QuickBooks Online payroll that often. Then there's the other section where you can create a bank deposit, a transfer, or journal entries if you guys are performing journal entries in-house. The other area that you would really use to navigate QuickBooks Online is the gear icon up at the top right. And as you can see, it's similar to the new button where there's different sections of things that you would be needing to use. So your company, your account and settings where you can, update your address, any contact information. One big thing that clients like to know how to use is manage users. You can add any employee. And one cool feature about the manage users is you can decide what different employee can have different access. So if you have one employee that just works in accounts payable, you can customize it so that those are the only things that they see. Same with if an employee does just invoices, receiving payments, that kind of stuff. You can really customize to whatever you want them to be able to see versus having admin rights, or just, if you don't want them to see reports and such like that. The list section would have your products and services. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this really quick just to show some of you what the list looks like. So again, this is a landscaping sample company, so their items are customized to things that they would be selling. So when you're creating your products and services for when you need to complete an invoice, I'm going to go ahead and hit edit just so you can kind of see what it looks like. You can name your product or service. The category over here can be if you like to separate out different things for running reports. You can assign it what income account you'd like it to go to. So, if you want to show what was labor that you billed for labor versus what you billed for materials, you can create different income accounts and assign these products or services to those. And this is a feature that helps you when you go to create your invoice so that you can select that product or services in the drop-down. The other cool thing that I really love about QuickBooks Online is the search bar. So the search bar is up here at the top right. So if it was something that you were recently doing, it shows right up here at the top in recent transactions. So let's say you went in and recorded an invoice and you put that they ordered 10 bags of rocks, but they really they only ordered 9. Oh, okay, let me go back in and change that. You can click on this search bar and you'd be able to see the invoice right up here at the top area that you created recently. Then you can click right on it, it opens it up, and you can make adjustments. The other thing that you can do is you can type in an amount. And if the amount is there, any transaction that might have had that amount in it will pop up for you to choose. And you can also type words. So anything that has to do with, you can see over to the right, they all are referring to garden rocks. So I really like this feature because sometimes you just want to look something up, and if you start typing, all these little lists show up, and it's quick and easy for you to check off, reopen, modify. I use this feature a lot, and I encourage all my clients to really use this feature. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was the importance of setting up a proper chart of accounts. So the chart of accounts can be seen over here on the right by the gear icon. And then you can click on chart of accounts. And this is basically the list of all the different income accounts, liability accounts, asset accounts, expense accounts that you have that you want to use for when you run reports and to track your financials for your business. One of the big things that I see often with clients is they tend to try to make their chart of accounts a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. This sample company is a really good example of that because it shows what I like to call some of the do's and don'ts of chart of accounts. A lot of people like to try to put sub-accounts in to get more detail. So utilities is a big one that I see. I'm going to scroll down to show you. They have a large chart of accounts. So right here, as you can see, they have a utilities account, and then they made a sub-account for gas and electric and a sub-account for a telephone expense. Usually what we recommend is less is more in most cases. When you have a finance team that's recording transactions and having to decide, what bill you're paying and what account it should go to, it makes it a lot easier for them and allows for more consistency with your reporting when you have less accounts. So we usually recommend that you just have a utilities account that would encompass if you have gas and electric or water, instead of having utilities and then a gas and electric and a water. And we usually like to see telephone as its own line item. Another example of some of the sub-accounts that people like to use is insurance. I go both ways with insurance. I think it kind of just depends on what you're really looking to track. Some larger companies like to show, professional liability insurance versus workers' comp, instead of lumping them all together. So we really like to help our clients tailor it to their needs while also helping them make sure that they're not putting too many sub-accounts, so that we can make sure that our reporting is consistent, easy to follow, easy to read when you run your reports, and things like that. I also wanted to talk about just adding a new account. I get that question a lot from people. So right here at the top right, you would just click New. And then in the drop down, you're going to want to select what type of account you're trying to add. So let's just say that you're trying to add an expense account. The detail type is really cool because you can pick the different type of expense account that you're trying to put in. So if it's payroll related, repairs and maintenance, utilities, supplies and materials. So for supplies and materials, this is a gardening landscaping center. And then the account name is what you want to see when you go to drop down and you're entering bills, what you would want to see the account name as. You can put a description, it's not mandatory. And then if you are utilizing the sub accounts, you just mark this box off, and then you get to choose what account you want it to be a sub of. All right. So now we're going to jump into the customer center. So the customer center, this little left navigation bar, the black navigation bar, aside from going to the new button to create specific documents, you can also utilize this sidebar that is usually separated out into different categories. So your sales is going to be where you could create an invoice if you don't use the new button. You could create an estimate, and this is also where you're going to get to the customer center. So this is the customer center dashboard. As you can see, it outlines, how many estimates that you have out there, if you have any unbilled income, how many overdue invoices you have, and the amount of overdue invoices. It shows you what's been recently paid, open invoices and credits. And then down below is the list of all of your customers. So if you don't want to scroll, I have some clients who have a large amount of customers. You can just start typing their name, and then it pops up right underneath, so you can click on it rather than scrolling through the customer center. So that's a really cool feature to use, helps be a little bit more efficient. So we're going to go through adding a new customer. So up at the top right, you just click on new customer. And I am going to name this customer John Smith. One of the cool things about online too is that you can add an email address. And this will allow you to, let's say we're going to go create an invoice for John Smith, and he prefers that it's emailed to him rather than, printed and mailed. This will allow you to email that invoice right to him because his email address is saved in his customer center. You can add a phone number. If it's a company and you want to put their fax number or their website, you can do that as well. And as you move down, we have the address. Now, this also allows you to put a different shipping address if it's not the same as the billing address, if you were to have a business where you need to ship something. This is really cool. It allows you to put any notes, maybe just something about John Smith and something that he has requested. You can put that note in there so that when you go to send him an invoice or communicate with him, you have a reminder of that note. If there's any files that he has given to you that you'd like to save, you can drag and drop a PDF right into this attachment area. You can also put what his primary method of payment is and maybe what the terms. So maybe John Smith, you allow him to have net 30, but a different company or a different individual, if you choose to change that, you could give them a different net. And then any other additional information that you might need for a business or another individual is down here under additional info. So once you've completed all this information, all you have to do is hit the save button. And now John Smith is in here as a customer, and you can create invoices, receive payments for him. All right. So now we're going to create an invoice. So as I said, you could use this section over on the left navigation bar, sales and invoices. I really love the new button, so I'm going to encourage everybody to use the new button. So if you click on the new button right on the left here under customers, you're going to click on invoice. So this is the template for the invoice. You're first going to start with selecting the customer that you want to write an invoice for. So we're going to choose Amy's Bird Sanctuary. So as you can see, Amy's Bird Sanctuary was already set up as a customer within QuickBooks, and all of her information auto-populates, her billing address. When she was set up, they had her first and last name as well as her business name. So that's why right here you're going to see her first and last name, her company name, and then the address. And as I mentioned, when entering John Smith, you can see that they put her email in here, birds@intuit.com. So this would allow us to send this invoice via email if that's what we choose to do. She is set up as net 30. So again, when this customer was set up, we chose net 30 so that auto-populates when you go to create the invoice and you type her customer name in. The invoice date. So one thing that I want to point out that I think confuses people sometimes is when you are working in QuickBooks Online and you go to record something, it always auto-populates to the date you're doing it, today's date. Kind of frustrating sometimes because if you're trying to get stuff done quickly and you hit enter and you save it and then you go to look for it and it's not where you thought it was, do yourself a favor and check that it was the date of today or the date you really wanted it, because 9 times out of 10 you accidentally put it today's date. I feel like that sometimes even happens to me. You're trying to do something quick and you're not thinking and it goes right to today's date, and then I go to try to find it and I can't find it. So QuickBooks Online always auto-populates to today's date. I'm going to leave it today's date for now, but if you'd like to change it, you just click the little calendar button. You can toggle to the different months and choose a day. And then the due date is always going to be based off of the terms that was chosen. So this auto-populates to 1/9, which is the net 30 from today's date. So the next part is the product or service, which I briefly talked about in the beginning. So these products or services are already set up under this sample company. So Amy's Bird Sanctuary is going to buy a rock fountain, and we're going to set up the invoice to bill her for our rock fountain. So right here is a rock fountain. And when you set up the product or service, again, we gave it a name. You can put a description if you'd like so that it shows up here. If you did not put a description when you set up the product or service, you can always type right in here. You can change it. You can always update that description if you didn't put it in when you made the product or service. Maybe you choose not to put descriptions so that depending on what you're doing with that customer, you can put your own custom description in each time. And if you decided that you wish that you went in and put a description, you can always go into the product or service, edit it, and add that right in there. So when you set up the product or service, you can give it a rate, which would be by 1 unit, quantity 1. So this was set up that one rock fountain's rate is $275. And it auto shows that it's 1 quantity 1, rate 275, amount is 275. Now, let's just say, for example, her bird sanctuary is very large and she wants to buy 3 of them. You can just change the quantity to 3. The rate is still $275 per unit, and it's going to automatically update that to $825. Down here on the bottom left has a little message on the invoice. You don't have to put a message. When you set up your invoice template, you can make that message if you want that to be the same message on every invoice. If you decide that you don't want that there, you can just delete it. And you can just say thank you. Totally up to you. You can customize that however you like to customize it. And then all you have to do is so you can hit save. Or if you hit save and send, it'll auto-populate. So here's a image of what the invoice is going to look like when Amy's Bird Sanctuary receives it. And on the left, it's telling you what email it's coming from. So this would be, your company's email that's set up in the settings. Shows that it's to birds@intuit.com. You can customize what the subject is. So QuickBooks Online always auto-populates that to say invoice from such and such business name. If you don't want it to say that, you can always change it, make it whatever you want. And then this section down here is the body of your email. So when you hit send and Amy receives this email, the subject will say invoice from Craig's Design and Landscaping Services. And then the body of the email will say, Dear Amy, your invoice is attached. Please remit payment at your earliest convenience. Thank you for your business. We appreciate it very much. You are able to customize that to say whatever it is that your business wants that email body to say. And then you would hit send and close. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to X out for now. So now that we've created the invoice for Amy's Bird Sanctuary, we're going to say that Amy sent us the payment and we're going to receive the payment. So again, the new button I use for everything. Click on the new button and under customers, under invoice, you're going to click receive payment. Now this is the landing page essentially for receiving the payment. So as you can see, there's no customer put in here. There's no list of invoices. Once you are, organizing the checks that your customers may have mailed you, you're going to have to type in that customer name, and then any invoice that they have outstanding with you is going to auto-populate on a list. So we're going to type Amy's Bird Sanctuary. Again, with the dates, QuickBooks Online always likes to choose the date that you're here. So let's say Amy wrote her check on December 6th, and you're just now getting around to recording it in your QuickBooks file. I would recommend that you would choose December 6th was the date that you received the payment. You can choose a payment method. So we're going to say that she paid with a check. The reference number is going to be your check number. Now the deposit to can vary depending on, what you really prefer to do with your business. We typically recommend to our clients that you utilize the undeposited funds. This feature basically allows you to, let's say in the mail you got 5 different checks from 5 different customers, and you prepared that deposit on December 6th, and you deposited all 5 checks in one lump sum, and that lump sum shows up in your bank account. What we would want to see you do is go through all 5 customers, receive each of those payments, the payment date of 12/6, their payment method of check, put their check number, and deposit it to undeposited funds. So we're going to say that Amy paid her invoice of $891 on December 6th. We're going to hit save and close. And now we're going to record that deposit. So when you click on bank deposit, you'll record your deposit. You're going to choose which account you want to put it to. Obviously, this sample company just has a checking and a savings account, but maybe your business has 2 different checking accounts, and there's a reason for that. You'd want to make sure that you're depositing it to the right checking account. The date is 12/6. And as you can see right here, this says select the payments included in this deposit. So these were other customers that the payments were received on a specific day, but maybe were not deposited until 12/6. You'll be able to check them all off. So these 2 say that they were received on 11/13. We received this one on 12/6. I'm going to skip Red Rock Diner because that one says it was received on the 10th. And at the bottom, you can see the total. So each customer essentially paid with a separate check. We received those payments, but what we deposited in the bank really might have been all of them together, which is the $2,953.52. So we really like the undeposited funds feature because this really allows for a clean set of books. It helps if you ever have to go through an audit. It makes for a better trail that what is clearing your bank is what is being shown in your general ledger on your QuickBooks account. So once you've checked everything off and you've got your total, you can hit save. So you can hit save anew. Let's say you wanted to go do another deposit, or you can hit save and close because you're done with that, deposit for the day. So the next thing we're going to talk about is recording credit memos. So again, that new button is your best friend. You're going to use it all the time. So you're going to create a credit memo. And we are going to create a credit memo for Red Rock Diner. So originally, Red Rock Diner ordered bags of rocks for some design landscaping that we were doing for them. And we charged them for 10 bags of rocks. But at the end of the project, they ended up only using 9. So we are going to create a credit memo for the 1 bag of rocks that they did not need to purchase. So you type in the customer name. All their information is going to auto-populate, their email address, their mailing address. And under products and services, we're going to find our rocks. And as you can see, the description shows that it's garden rocks, quantity 1. Each bag of rocks is $125. So we're going to create a credit memo for the 1 bag of $125. So this credit memos are pretty simple. There isn't much to them. Once you enter in the product or service and the amount that we're returning to them or crediting them, you can just hit save. And now what we're going to do is go in and apply that credit memo to the open invoice, because we invoiced them for 10 bags of rocks, but they only paid for 9. So what we're going to do now is essentially you're going to go back to new and receive a payment. And we're going to type in Red Rock Diner. Oh. Oh no. Sorry, I don't know what happened to the the invoice for that. So we'll just make a new one. So we're going to create the invoice for Red Rock Diner. For the rocks, we're going to say that there were 10. So 10 bags of garden rocks at $125 a piece is the $1,250. We're going to hit save. I just want to make sure that you guys can visualize what it looks like when we have an open invoice and a credit memo. One thing that I've heard from clients is you'll see when you click on it, it's hard to see that credit memo right away. So we're going to go to receive payment. We're going to type in Red Rock Diner. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. I apologize. Oh, it's because I skipped a piece because I got confused. Sorry. All right. We're going to create the credit memo now. For the bag of rocks. Let's hope this works now. Oh. This is strange. I'm not sure why this is doing this. All right. Well, I apologize. I'm not sure why this is happening, but we'll keep going and I can try to circle back to that if we have time left. If not, and any of you have questions on that or need assistance with that, please feel free to reach out or let me know and we can go over that. I do apologize. All right. So the next thing that I see a question. Can I still add jobs under specific customers? It is not usual for us to have multiple active jobs for one customer. Yes. So in the customer, I think what you're asking is, can you have sub jobs under each customer? So when you're in the customer center, here's an example. So Freeman Sporting Goods is a customer, but then they have jobs at 2 of their different locations, 0969 Ocean View Road and 55 Twin Lane. So when you create your customer, your overarching customer, Freeman Sporting Goods, anytime you want to create a specific job for that customer, you create a new customer. And let's just say it's 66 Stone Way. I'm not going to enter any of the other information, but so you want to call it 66 Stone Way, and then you can click on this little box right here that says it's a sub customer. And then we want to attach it to Freeman Sporting Goods. And this right here says bill to parent customer. So that means that when you enter an invoice, even if you choose 66 Stone Way, it's going to automatically link it to that overarching Freeman Sporting Goods and send the invoice directly to them. I hope that answered your question. If not, please let me know and I can hopefully get you that answer. Okay, now we're going to move into the vendor center. So the vendor center is going to be under this expenses area on the left navigation bar. And we are going to go over how to add a vendor. Very similar to how you enter a customer, just a few little extra tips I kind of wanted to talk about for putting a new vendor in your QuickBooks account. So we're going to call this company Superior Gardening Services, and it's incorporated. So one thing I wanted to point out was try to be mindful when you're entering new vendors into your QuickBooks account that if they are an LLC or they are incorporated, that you're adding that ending on to the name. It might not seem like it really matters because regardless of if you remember or forget to put those endings in that name, your vendor is still going to be able to cash the check that you're writing them. However, when it comes time for your accountants to file your 1099s in January, this is super helpful for them because if the company is incorporated, they don't need to be issued a 1099. If they are an LLC, they do. So it's helpful to have that information in there so that then they're not, asking you about all this list of clients and do they need a 1099? Can you provide the W-9? Because if it doesn't say anything, we usually request a W-9 from all of them because that at least helps us determine if they need it or not. So I really try to get my clients in the habit of putting that full name in when you're entering the vendor. It's just helpful down the road, saves you time come tax time. So just try to, think about that when you're entering those new vendors. Again, you can put an email address. Your phone number. If they have a fax number or their website, you can put in their address. The other cool thing about QuickBooks Online is if you spell something wrong, it underlines it in red so you can correct it. Again, similar to the customer center, if you have any notes that you want to put in there, a reminder of the vendor, maybe they prefer ACH payment over a check, any attachments that you want to put in there. If you are utilizing QuickBooks to pay your bills, you can enter in that information or even just save it in there for reference if you're paying it. A lot of clients like to use the ACH bill pay services out of their own bank account. Like Chase does that, M&T, I'm pretty sure most of them do that. You could store that information in here so that you don't lose it. This section is really cool because you can put their tax ID number in here and check this little box off here if it's a vendor that should be receiving a 1099. This will help you be able to run that 1099 report in QuickBooks and know that this client will show up on it. You can put the terms. So if this vendor says that you need to pay in 45 days, you can put that. Net 15, whatever they choose, you can put that reminder in there. If you have an account number with this vendor, it's helpful to put that account number in here. It'll auto-populate when you go to create the bill. And this feature is also pretty cool, the accounting section. So let's say you're entering a vendor that is always going to go to job materials. I can choose that it's always going to go to plants and soil. So anytime you go to enter a bill for that client, that expense account is going to auto-populate for you, save you a little bit of time. So that's a cool feature that I really like. So once you've filled all this out, same as the customer, you're going to hit save. Okay. Now we're going to move into entering bills. So again, we're going to hit this handy new button. And over here under the vendor section, we're going to choose bill. All right. So we are going to enter a bill for Ellis equipment rental. So I can't remember now if I mentioned this under the customer. I think I did, but you don't have to scroll down the whole list of all these vendors, like to try to find Ellis or, whatever. You might have hundreds of vendors, so you don't want to have to scroll. You can just type right in here and it'll pop right up. Even if you just start to type, EL, and there's something else that might have that in it, it kind of starts to show up for you. And we click on Ellis equipment rental. We're going to say that the terms are net 30. The bill date, let's say they bill us monthly. So I'm going to put that it was November 30th. And that auto-populates to that the due date is 12/30. The bill number. So I oftentimes come across clients that they might utilize this bill pay feature, this bill pay module in QuickBooks Online, but they don't ever enter an invoice number. I encourage everybody to start using it if you're not already using it. One really great feature of QuickBooks Online, and I believe it also does it in desktop, is that if you repeat a bill number, it will yell at you so that it, kind of warns you like, hey, you already have an invoice from this vendor with this invoice number. Oh, are you sure it's not a duplicate? Maybe you entered it yesterday and you just forgot that you entered it because it was still sitting on your desk and you forgot to file it. That will kind of like ring a bell to you to double check. Oh, did I already enter this? Oh, yes, I did. Okay, delete that bill. Then you don't pay it twice. So I really encourage everybody to use the bill number. So you put the invoice number right in there. We're going to choose the category. So we're going to say that this is equipment rental. So again, I can kind of start typing that in. I see a lot of clients just quickly get in the habit of trying to hit the drop down menu and scroll. I encourage you to type, even if it's just a letter or two. It'll really help save you some time finding that account code. So we're going to choose equipment rental. And maybe, whatever description you want to put in here, it could be something that showed up on the invoice that the vendor gave you. It could be something that you just like to put in there that helps give you that reminder of what you paid for. So, maybe you rented this piece of equipment for Sally Joe's work. So you could say Sally Joe's really, you can be creative with that, whatever helps, you and your business, or if you run reports and you like to filter by description, you can put anything you want in there, or again, reference what was on the invoice from the vendor. We're going to say that this equipment rental was $1,500. And again, if this is related to a customer that you might have in QuickBooks and you're trying to track that, you can always choose in the drop down over here on the right what that customer name is. And then you're going to hit save. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out too was if you like to save your documents in QuickBooks Online and you have that PDF invoice from this vendor, you can go ahead and drag and drop the PDF right over here into this add attachment section. Really cool. One of the reasons why we like to recommend this to our clients is because If any of you have ever gone through an audit, a lot of my nonprofits go through annual audits, which is required. And sometimes the auditors, instead of having to ask 1,010 questions, they can be in the QuickBooks, run reports, and they can see that invoice, or you don't have to go back and find it. It's just in the QuickBooks, ready to go, saved in that expense. So that's a really cool feature. A lot of my clients have started using that and they really like it. So we're going to save that. And then we're going to go into paying the bill. So we go to the new button again. Under vendors, we're going to pay our bills. Now this is the landing page for paying of your bills. So this shows a list of all the bills that you've already recorded into your QuickBooks file. It goes based off of the date that you recorded it and what the terms are listed. So for example, this PG&E is saying that its due date was really October 29th, so it's 42 days overdue. This is a pretty cool feature because when you come in here, a lot of my clients, as soon as they get their invoices in the door, they're recording them into QuickBooks, which is a very good habit. That way, any day that you're running a report, it's very accurate and you can see what your liabilities, what your outstanding bills are on a day-to-day basis, real time. And then when you come in here to go and pay your bills, you can say, oh, well, maybe cash is tight this week. We have to run payroll. So I'm really only going to pay a few of my super overdue bills or the bills that are like just overdue, maybe not ones that aren't due for 20 days. So Ellis Equipment Rental, based off of the dates we entered, isn't due for 20 more days. It's due December 30th. So maybe we don't want to pay that one today. All you have to do is check off the ones that you really want to pay. So let's pay these really old overdue invoices. Up at the top, you're going to see the total amount of the bills that you checked off. And in here in this section under payment, let's say it's let's just say it's $1,500, or here's the $200 one. Maybe we only want to pay half of that invoice just because of cash flow, or maybe the vendor's only requiring you to pay half as a deposit. You can always change the amount right in here in this little box. And notice how it says partial payment. So when we go to make this payment, let's say, and I can show you this, when we go back in to pay bills, you'll still see this bill, Tim Phillips Masonry, for $200, but it'll show that the open balance is only $100. So it'll still stay on your bill pay report so that you know that you still owe it, but it'll show you the original bill and what's the open balance. So that's pretty cool too. Again, up at the top right, it's going to show you, I'm sorry, I blanked. It's going to show you the amount that you're paying in total, and then you're going to want to make sure that you choose the checking account, or whichever checking account, operating account that you want to make sure the checks come out of. And then it also shows you the starting check number. So in this case, it's 72. Now, the other cool feature about this is you can choose the print later. So let's say that you have an accounts payable clerk who schedules all of these and gets them in the queue, but maybe you go back and review them before you cut the checks. You can click print later, and you can always go back in and print those checks from that list. I'm not going to choose schedule payments. You kind of only use that one if you're utilizing QuickBooks Online to pay your bills. Most people are paying via ACH out of their bank accounts or cutting a physical check. So in this case, you would want to just hit save and close. Uh-oh. Oh, so this is interesting. I'm not sure what this error is really for, but let's see if it works if we change the account. Well, as I say to clients very often, sometimes QuickBooks Online just is a pain sometimes and doesn't do what you want it to do. And I never know why. There are days where it just does. Oh, so it worked when I changed it to the savings account. But if you ever encounter where QuickBooks is kind of acting weird one day, I encourage you to like X out of it and get back in it. I can't explain why sometimes it does weird stuff. My department has noticed that if we're in one account for a really long time, like say we're doing a big cleanup project or just a larger account that takes us multiple hours, it's almost as if QuickBooks Online gets confused and it's like overstimulated from us clicking and clicking and clicking on everything. And some of us will be like, oh, I just hit save, but it's like saying it won't work, but we know it's correct. We just get out and we get back in and it's usually fine. So sometimes QuickBooks Online does weird things. It's an online software, so I guess it is what it is. But if you ever have those issues, I encourage you to get out and get back in and see if it works better. All right, so now we're going to record a vendor credit. So again, in the new button, we're going to go to vendors and we're going to click on vendor credit. Our vendor is going to be Tim Philip Masonry. And we are going to do a credit for cost of goods sold because we purchased concrete from this vendor and we ordered $200 more concrete than we really needed. So we're going to put $200 in here. So now we're creating our vendor credit for Tim Philip Masonry. And I actually think that we might have paid that bill because I deducted the $100. So, oops. So that was my mistake. But basically what happens is when you go to pay your bill, see this little area right here where it says credit applied. So we have the $200 credit, but I have a $100 balance. So I can apply the $100 to make that showed as paid in full. And right down here, you can see that there's no credits for these other two vendors, but we knew that we had one for Tim Philip Masonry. And as you can see over here, it shows that the payment amount is 0. Total amount is 100. And up here is really the most important. So this is the amount that I showed you earlier that was going to come out of your physical bank account, your checking account. So this shows that it's 0 because we had a credit. So while we do have this outstanding overdue balance of $100, we had a credit on file for him. So we applied that $100. And when we hit save, it's not going to take money out of your check register, but it's going to remove that vendor from the list. We don't have any outstanding invoices from them anymore because we applied that credit. All right. And the last thing that I wanted to go over was I do encourage everybody to use the bill pay module if you are receiving invoices from vendors and utilizing, entering the bill, paying the bill, tracking that through your vendors. But there are instances where you might not need to enter a bill. And one of them might be if you use your debit card. I have some clients who use debit cards a lot. You might run to Walmart for something or Target and you really don't get an invoice from anybody. That's okay. You can still enter that via the expense section over here under vendors. So let's just say that we went to Bob's Burger Joint on Friday afternoon. So we're going to call that travel meals. And we're going to say it was $156.23. So this is us just entering an expense. We don't have to enter a bill and then go through the process of paying the bill. We can just record this expense because we swiped our debit card and went out to lunch with our crew that day to celebrate a good day's work, a good week's work. I do encourage everybody to scan in receipts, save receipts. If you don't want to scan them in and attach them into the QuickBooks, that's fine, but it's always a good idea to make sure you're saving those receipts. Again, because you don't have an invoice to support that documentation, at least you've got that receipt from going out to lunch, and then you can hit save and close. So that one was to the checking account, but you can also record your expenses for your credit card. So same process. You don't need to enter a bill. You don't need to pay the bill. Let's say that we went to Bob's Burger Joint, and instead of using the debit card, which comes right out of your checking account, you used the Visa card, which is one of your credit cards. Same information, same thing, payment method. You could say your Visa card. This is making sure that it's going to your Visa liability credit card account on your balance sheet to track those expenses, track what is owed on your credit card. Same thing, travel and meals. You can attach a receipt, and then you can go ahead and hit save and close. I had another question come in. We have a little bit more time. Can a small business work with QuickBooks Online? Yes, absolutely. There are multiple versions of QuickBooks Online, different ranges of pricing depending on what your needs are. So there is a version called Simple Start. It really just depends on, what you're really looking to do, but there are multiple options for different types of businesses, whether you're just starting out, maybe you've only been in business for a year and you're just starting to ramp up. The other cool thing about the QuickBooks Online versions is it's super easy to upgrade. So let's say you're a new small business and you're not so sure that you really need the advanced features of QuickBooks Online. That's okay. You can start with Essentials or Simple Start, one of the cheaper options that doesn't have a ton of options for reporting and things. But if you start to feel like you're really gearing up and you want some more detail and you want some more reporting, it is super easy to upgrade to one of the larger, more expensive versions of QuickBooks. So yes, absolutely, a small business can work with QuickBooks Online. The other thing to point out is depending on the version that you use, some of the lower, cheaper versions don't give you as many users. So I believe Essentials or Simple Start only has one user. So if it's just you, that works out fine. But if you are a small business where you have yourself as the owner and maybe an office person to help enter bills and such, you'd want to go to that next version because that gives you 3 users. And all of the versions also allow you to add 2 outside accountant users for free. So that's really great too. It gives your tax accountant, any accounting firm that you're working with, very easy access to your QuickBooks Online account. I did see a lot of other questions trickle in. I tried my best to get to them. We're just about out of time. So we do have your contact information. We will get back to you with those questions. I'll get those answered for you. Again, just a quick reminder that this was recorded. The link will be emailed to you, and it will also be available on our YouTube page. Check it out. There's a lot of really cool videos and webinars on there that we've previously done. I appreciate all of you being here with me today. I hope that you all learned something that will be helpful, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.